me in studio is Mr. Ian Dabreo. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome. He's the PRO of the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association.
Yes.
So how has the weekend been? I mean, Easter weekend has just gone by. How has the Easter weekend really impacted tourism in Grenada?
The weekend actually was quite good. I think that, well, first of all, I don't think that we've had too many incidents, so which is fantastic. But leading to the aspect of economic development from the weekend, I think Easter, as we all know, is a time when a lot of Caribbean people do tend to move around through the region, and a bit somewhat like Thanksgiving for the U.S. And so what we see is movement from St. Lucia, Trinidad, Barbados, throughout the Caribbean, and different sporting groups. For example, we had the Inland Revenue sporting group out, from the region coming to Grenada. I think they hosted this weekend, and I think they brought in somewhere in the vicinity of probably 300 personnel from, the various islands. So I think that in that aspect, it's good. We had the bikers doing the same thing, and then of course you have a lot of our close neighbors, Trinidad, a lot of Trinidadians do tend to come up for the Easter weekend, being the the 4-day time off. So it's for Grenada, that's good. It in terms relation to heads on beds, it's good because you're talking a number of people coming, spending money here in the economy, and of course, enjoying what Grenada has, and sightseeing, going around, taking part in some of the local activities, and which is great for Grenada.
Of course. And so you're saying it's more so intra-Caribbean travel rather than international persons coming in over the Easter weekend? Yeah,
you get more people from the region coming in, and I wish that well, one of my little peps is the fact that I would like to see the governments of the region support LIAT, because gone are the day when everyone used to more or less complain about the fares from LIAT and say, oh, LIAT prices need to come down, until we start booking online and we actually see what the taxes are on each ticket. And I think if every island gets involved, then we will see a reduction in the fares, and you will have more travel around the region. Even though we're in a recessionary period, Caribbean people still tend to move around and want to move around. Gone are the days of $300 tickets to Trinidad. I mean, I don't think we'll see that again, but somewhere in between, a ticket to Grenada to Trinidad or vice versa can be $600, maybe $700, and you'll find people still moving around. Right now, a lot of my friends from Trinidad, basically, it's like 2,000 TT, and you might say, well, that's TT dollars, but a dollar is a dollar no matter where you are in which country. So, these are things that we have to look at. Of course, we know that Red Jet is closing their doors, and of course they never really got any support from the islands, and I think that that is something that we need. Since the closing of I think it was Caribbean Star, which put some competition on LIAT, and it also opened up doors for more regional travel, and I think that that is the most important factor. The travel through the Caribbean for each island, for tourism, whether it's sporting tourism, cultural tourism, different types of tourism that Grenada will benefit from. These are the reasons why we need to have more inter-island carriers, basically carrying people through the region, and at an affordable price. As you know, well, through the last year and a half, maybe 2 years now since the recession, most of the hotels in Grenada have reduced their rates, and which is encouraging for other islands and other international travelers to come to Grenada, but getting here is usually very difficult. And that's one of our areas that we need some support in. But of course, Red Jet is going, Monarch is going also. We're hoping that between British Airways and Virgin, we'll be able to pick up some of the slack, but there again, that is something that is negotiated, I guess, with the airlift committee in terms of how much more the bigger airlines would want to, give us more seats, and of course that has to do with the number of beds that we have in Grenada available, and so we do have our own issues on ground to deal with, but You know, I think that we have to concentrate more on the region and trying to develop that, because I think we have more control over that area. And it's just a matter of the governments of the region getting together. You know, I've heard the minister talking about the meeting of the American states coming up. And at some point, maybe when ministers or prime ministers of the region get together, they need to discuss the issues of LIAT and how best we can keep LIAT flying, because at the end of the day, if LIAT doesn't fly, well, you know, all the islands will have a downturn in persons traveling to the various countries. So I think that it's important, and it's important that we, as Caribbean people, merge and get together as Caribbean Hotel Association tries to promote the region as one Caribbean. Each island is an individual island, but it's one Caribbean when you're promoting to the you know, the U.S. markets and British and the Canadian markets. It's, you know, so I think that the importance here is getting our people to understand what regional and, you know, travel is all about.
How many persons were in Grenada over the weekend, you'd say? An estimate of persons coming in just for the weekend and our events?
I would say for the events coming in and people traveling, we would have had at least 600 or 700 persons coming into the island for the weekend. Yeah.
And then what would be the economic impact of this?
You would see an easy $250,000, maybe $500,000 return out of that, due to car rentals, hotels, you know, beds, restaurants, nightclubs, you know, different venues hosting, you know, activities. And I think that, you know, this direct impact makes a difference to the economy. It makes a difference to each individual stakeholder. Because as things are now, we are coming to the end of the tourism sort of winter season. And we're sort of going into the summer period where things get a bit slow. And you're now encouraging sporting activities, for example. As we know, I think you have triathlon coming up, you know, the end of April into May. And I think that is something that a lot of smaller properties are looking forward to, because this brings, again, maybe another 100, 200 persons, you know, who are taking part. And it brings a lift also to Grenada, because a lot of Grenadians are taking part and they're training, and it's a health factor, so it's good, you know, not just from a tourism point, but from a health factor, it's also good. And I think that more of these activities need to be assisted, you know, sponsors and, you know, things like that. Well, of course, I'm involved in drag racing. When we put on something, you know, you get another 300-400 people coming in on the island for a weekend. So it creates an economic impact on that for that weekend. And between now and, let's say, July, before we start getting for Carnival, where we have a lot of nationals returning, you know, out of the UK, the US, and the Canadian markets, you know, we need that sort of in between to keep businesses going, keep businesses afloat. I mean, and these are things that are pushed, especially through these slower months, where hotels come on board. They give very, very low discounted rates to try and encourage, you know, movement to Grenada, and also to assist in some of these sporting activities. It's just too bad that we didn't get some of the cricket that was taking place the other day with Australia. I mean, that again would have made an economic impact on Grenada. As we have been used to getting 2 one-days on the weekend, which is great for us, and it brings bodies into Grenada and spend. Yeah.
Do you know what other islands, other neighboring Caribbean islands, are doing to promote intra-regional travel?
Well, I think that each island is doing their own. You have, for example, you have the Jazz Festival in St. Lucia that the St. Lucians are promoting heavy. And next weekend they have the drags that the government of St. Lucia is actually sponsoring.
Wow.
And that I know will bring in at least 400 people from the region to St. Lucia. So that's a boost for them. It's at a time when things are low, so St. Lucia will benefit from that. And then, you know, so these impacts of sports make a huge difference to the region. A couple of years ago, I think Grenada hosted the Cycling Association, hosted the cycle meet for a weekend, which was, I think, sponsored by one of the companies here. And we need more of that. If we can keep getting these events coming into Grenada, especially through these slower months, it will make a difference to the drive of Grenadians and the businesses, the local businesses around.
And what about government's involvement in promoting this intra-regional? You said St. Lucia's government, you know, funding drags. What about Grenada's government? How?
Well, the governments get involved, and we need some more assistance from them. But they do get involved in terms of when you have movement of sporting gear through the region. The government of Grenada tends to, you know, give the letters of concession to allow all the sporting gear to come in, you know, so that it's duty free, so that customs don't really give you a hard time. So I think that that's their way of doing something. What the government of St. Lucia is doing, well, that's above and beyond, and that's a big outlay for them. And would be good if Grenada could get something like that, but you know, I think our government says we don't have any money right now. So, but you know, getting involved in sports is where we see our government being instrumental. Getting involved behind the scenes, maybe you may not have money to be putting into, but at least giving the support where needed to encourage local, you know, groups to put on and host various activities. And I think that that's what we more look for the, you know, from the sporting activities, from you know, point of view.
Okay, and Carnival season is coming up. So tell us about the Grenada Hotel and Tourism Association. How are we preparing for Carnival? Are we ready?
Well, well, the hotels are always ready. I mean, that I can tell you. I mean, we generally we spin on a dime, because anytime there's activities and people are showing interest in booking rooms, the hotels are there. The Hotel Association. We are trying new things now. We're trying to be a bit more out there for our members. We're trying to be a bit more on a lobbying factor to government to try and let government recognize and see the benefits more of tourism and what tourism does for the economy. For example, in the budget that came out last month, what we realized from tourism arrivals in Grenada was $290 million, and foreign direct investment was another $100 million. So I think that we see the numbers are there, and the numbers can grow, but we as tourism officials, we need to have a bit more of the government's input in terms of, like, for example, the Board of Tourism is, they get subventions from government, and if these subventions come on a timely manner, then we can promote and get the island, you know, being promoted properly and marketed, and you have the tour operators who are involved. But this is something that is an ongoing factor. And one point that I want to make, because and sometimes you hear a lot of people talk about why don't the hotels promote themselves. Well, first of all, each hotel tends to promote themselves, and we spend upwards in over $10 million if you collectively put all the money together from that aspect. The other aspect of it is that when we promote Grenada benefits, even though we promote individually Grenada benefits, but what the Board of Tourism is supposed to do is to promote as a nation. So you'll promote Grenada as a nation, and then each island can piggyback on that from promoting Grenada as a destination that is somewhere that people want to go to. And the days of sun, sea, and sand is moving away a lot. People are not looking forward so much to coming to Grenada just to say to lie on the beach. You know, we're looking for activities, and activities come in various ways. You know, you have cultural shows, you have, for example, you have the Spice Basket. We have a dinner theater now that is being promoted by, I think, Ricardo Kings Douglas. So we have different things for people to do when they come here, and there are a lot of other activities. We have the local shows, we have foreign artists being brought in. So Grenada is moving slowly, but unfortunately, we're in a time right now, an economic time, where we need to step up a little bit more. Things need to be done. If there are policies to be made governments need to act on the policies and get things going. You know, we're not here to sit down and just say, well, we're in a time where things are slow, so we just work with that. We have to be more proactive, more creative. We have to, it's just like if you travel, let's say, and you go to a hotel for 3 years in a row, or you go 2 or 3 times, after the second year, you want to see some changes in that hotel. You want to see the rooms looking a little different, and you know, some little form of upgrades. And I think that we are faced with that. And sometimes you hear a lot of Grenadians complain that hotels get concessions. But if we don't stay alive, if we don't stay abreast with what's happening, we'll lose out to the other islands. And after Ivan, that was a good push for Grenada. Most of the properties that were a bit tired. Yes, I
got
mean,
a facelift.
Got a facelift, and you know, they got a lot of things added, and it made a difference to Grenada's tourism sector in terms of what we had to offer. We need more product in Grenada. For example, the sites of Annandale and Granatang, all these sites need to be developed more. Even our fort, St. George's Fort, that needs to be developed. But maybe, you know, it's a time when Grenadians need to come together as business partners and see if we could do something, because there's a lot of history on the fort. As we all know, from my time to your time, there's things happening, and I think that if we can't come together as Grenadians, then we have to find foreign investors who would want to develop that. I have traveled, I'm sure you have gone around the different parts of the Caribbean, and things that are of interest, people will pay. You know, so the fort is one that I think that if we could get that off the ground, and it has the history to go with it, what we will find is that people, cruise ships coming in, even people who are on stayover arrivals, have places to go, and they will pay the $5 or $10 if we have a properly orchestrated tour that can show you from the history of the English and the French way back, and why the forts are where they are and things like that, and the history going forward with Morris Bishop and you know that era in Grenada. And there is a lot of history there, and I think that we as Grenadians need to become more part of that. The government needs to basically open the doors, let businesses flow, because there's no businessman, whether he's Grenadian or he's a foreign business, is going to come to Grenada if he can't see you're going to make money. That's the bottom line. Grenadians away who live in UK, London, Toronto, if they have money and they want to come back to invest, if they can't see that they can make money, they won't come. So I think that, you know, that's the initiative from the government side that we need to push, to give, you know, sort of confidence to Grenadians to come home and do things. It's a time where around the world things are tough, and people are saying, well, they're losing jobs outside, so they're looking to come back home. Yes, come back home with a plan. Let's do something. Let's Grenada get going. And I think this will help, you know, develop our country as one of the, you know, the better countries in the region, in the Caribbean.
Right. Now, in terms of intra-regional travel and high prices of flights, what about boats? I mean, we always hearing a little shoo-shoo here and there about some boat coming in and we're going to be able to travel around a few islands. Is that an option that is being looked into? Well,
from what I understand, yes, it's an option coming out of Trinidad, and I think that will be good. It will be, in a sense, people can use it as a cruise. You know, you travel from Trinidad to Grenada and maybe up to one of the other islands, and you can travel back. And to me, that's great. You know, I mean, we may not have everything on the boat or on the ship as the cruise ships do, but it's a start. And it also gives a gateway for more regional movement through the Caribbean. I mean, it's not everyone that might be able to afford to come with their family on Liat, but on the boat, you know, I'm sure it'll be more affordable, and you get more movement of people. And at the end of the day, Grenada will benefit. We need numbers. Grenada's population is small. We need numbers to help assist in our daily overhead expenses in terms of what our things cost in Grenada, because we rely primarily on the duties that come in on the port. If we can find other means of putting monies in the government's hands, you know, more people traveling, more people spending. Hopefully, maybe some of the duties can be reduced, which will drop the cost of living a bit.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Well, these are things that basically it has to be established, has to be talked about, has to be discussed, has to. I know governments generally think that if they have $5, they're going to give it up to try and make 10, you know. But that's the way businesses are. As any business in Grenada, and you know, it's funny because in the last couple of years, last year and a half, it's the first time you actually see businesses have sales in Grenada, right? Grenada has never been an island where people have any item on sale. Now, maybe because they're forced to, but it's a way of moving product. It's a way of moving. Your profit margin may not be the same, but you can turn over the product faster. I don't know how you are, but I'm a type of purchase person who, if I see you have a product and I want it, I'll buy it, right? Rather than you telling me, well, I have to order it. If you have to order it, forget it. You know, I'm not interested, you know, because I could order it too. And I think a lot of people have that same feeling that if we have products here in Grenada, you will get sales. Prices have to be adjusted, and product will move. And it's the same with the tourism sector. We have had to reduce our rates to create the movement so that we can get room sales. Some hotels, percentages have been less than others, but you know, it all depends on what their criteria are and what their overheads are, that how much they can afford to move. And I think that we as Grenadians and hoteliers, I think we're doing our part. And of course, these shows like this, which of course I'd like to thank Dabreo for you know, bringing me on the show today, especially after the Easter weekend. It enlightens Grenadians on what actually is taking place and how the business community, the tourism sector is actually doing. And I think that we need more Easter weekends. You know?
I agree. Give me a 4-day weekend any
well, not
day.
from that part, but not from that part, but you know, I think in terms of the spend, you know, we need more Easter weekends like that, and you know, and sporting activities to be encouraged more, to be brought to Grenada, so that you know, once we move people through the Caribbean and they come to Grenada as a choice of destination, well, great.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's definitely a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, you're welcome.